Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you today on a bright and beautiful Tuesday. Summery weather, shirt sleeve weather. It's all a precursor to what I think is going to be a week of cloudy skies, the last of the chilly temperatures, and also lots of rain. But it was lovely today, absolutely lovely. It is still lovely. It'll be one of those long late spring evenings that just goes on forever and ever, where there's light in the sky at 9:30. And the lilacs are in full bloom. The birds are everywhere. All the migrating birds are now fully back and mating and nesting and whatnot. The insects are everywhere now. Everywhere is green. There are no holdover patches anymore. It's lovely. Absolutely lovely. And we have a couple of periodicals before we get to the mail. One of the periodicals is the Times Literary Supplement, the TLS, which has lots of things in it, but the only thing in it that really jumped out at me, I mean, there's lots of other stuff. There's lots of other stuff in here that this is going to be a wonderful issue to really hunker down with. But there's one thing that jumped out at me, something that falls under the category for Steve of a me-wanty, where I see an ad or a box or a review of something that I don't have that I very much want. And it's this. A modern Penguin classic of Franz Kafka's diaries. Probably the shocking one that was just out a couple of years ago, which means it will be significantly bigger than the last paperback Kafka's Diaries. Me wanty. But I don't even know who to request it from. I don't even know who to ask for it. And you Weisenheimers out there who might hear that, maybe if you're new to the channel and say, well, so what if you don't know who to ask for it? You could always just buy it. I'm a book reviewer. I don't buy books. Okay, I need to find out how to get a copy of that thing. How I envy those of you in the UK for a number of reasons, but also because you get to just walk into a bookstore and see things like this, cool editions like this. But the other periodical is not so much me wanty as it is you wanty. You have spoken, and the subscription gods have answered. It is the return of Architectural Donoghue. It's the return of our walkthrough of Architectural Digest. This is not a special issue. This is the May issue. And it starts off, as they all do, it starts off with huge ads. Gigantic double-page, full-color ads for hideous furniture and the people who make it. But before we get to the home profiles, which are the high point of any Architectural Donoghue episode, we can look at some of those ads to see missed opportunities. There are plenty of missed opportunities in every issue of Architectural Digest. Plenty of cases where you get a beautiful photograph, sometimes beautiful, sometimes not, sometimes the resolution is just bad. I don't know, is Architectural Digest using, for some faux hipster reason, are they using SLR film cameras? It's odd how many times I see a photo shoot for Architectural Digest where when you look, you see that things are blurred because they've been blown up too big. But like, for instance, that space right there, let's leave aside the fact that no human actually likes to look at crap like this. Let's leave that aside. Let's instead pretend that's not there and concentrate on the space itself. Look at how beautiful a reading nook that space would be. Natural light coming down the stairwell, but with a nice roof, a nice contour to it. How wonderful a reading nook would that be? Oh, either a chair and a bunch of bookcases, low bookcases with shelves on top for plants and maybe for the odd knickknack and that, or if you're feeling more flexible, deep pillows, big 5-foot wide pillows piled in this corner with books all around so that you can just lay in that corner and read for as long as you feel like it. What a perfect spot for a reading nook, just totally ignored because these people don't read. And then there's this, also in the front of the book. We're just at the table of contents, but this is a kitchen. That's an artistic little kitchen, don't you think? You have a gigantic glass bottle perched on top of this cabinet, which, since this is tile, means that this thing is just clamped onto the wall. So it's pretty easy to remove. You have a gigantic glass bottle on top of there, and a bunch of glass bottles and glasses perched on the edge of the shelves inside it. And you also have this chandelier, which is shaped like a scimitar blade, and the bottommost metal rungs are pretty sharp and have rust in addition to that, so that if the cut doesn't get you, the tetanus will. And you might be thinking, well, what difference does that make? So what? So what that these things are all perched the way they are? What difference does that make? This is in Costa Rica, that has 2 or 3 major earthquakes every single year. so this is insane. It's insane to set up a kitchen that way that is just going to kill you. But we'll move on to other missed opportunities, because good Lord, are there plenty. We've got a couple to do before we get to the house profiles. Like, look at this. Look at how close that is to being good. It's so close to being good. And yet, no. Not only is it overcrowded because you heard once in a Coke binge that the Victorians existed, but also it's overbusy. It doesn't make the proper use of the window, although I do kind of like that lamp. Of course, the people who own this home don't use it for reading. They don't use anything for reading. They don't read. But here we have a recurrent theme that runs throughout this issue, which is not architecture. It's instead mass murderers. I know I've got those on the brain lately, but there are quite a few things in this issue that made me think, well, okay, this is where Charles Manson comes in. Like this, for instance. That's a living room. But not really. You're sitting here, your guests are sitting here, and this is where Charles Manson is standing with a gun pointed at all of you. You're all the way supine, because these aren't actual chairs. So you're just waiting to decide what he will do to you. This is a very good outside patio type area, but look at the bedroom. That's where Charles Manson stands. He's staring at you. He's trying to decide what he's going to do. Then in between the ads at the front of the magazine and the house profiles at the back, there are also product placements so that you can see what it is and maybe sometimes how much it costs. Although a lot of times in Architectural Digest, when you see an item, the phrase that will be used at the end of the description is price available upon request, because they don't want to include in the magazine that their stupid rattan chair made by slaves in China they're selling for $30,000. They don't want to put that in the magazine, probably because of me. But when you come to items like that, product descriptions, or as we're going to see, home portfolios, there's one standard that you have to apply. We see this all the time in Architectural Donoghue. And that is me and my friend Deb. I know Deb hasn't been on this channel in a while, but me and my friend Deb are the standard that you want to use when deciding whether or not any architectural decision is good or bad. We are both old and fat and sweaty and disheveled. We're a handful, but we're the coolest guests you're ever going to have. And if your furniture doesn't work for us, if it's going to trap us or hurt us or kill us, then it's obviously bad furniture. This is a couch. Deb and I could not use this couch. We cannot get onto it, we cannot get off it, and we do not like the indentations it's going to make anywhere in our various ringed segments. So you don't use it. So you don't have that couch. That's as simple as that. If it doesn't work for me and Deb, then it doesn't work. But I think we're getting close to another close call. This space could be made to work. It doesn't work now. Not one element of it does, but it could be made to. You've got the view. Unless the view is computer generated, you've got the view. We have a young interior designer, Jermaine Gallagher, and it's his first time designing a house. Where is this thing? I think it's a townhouse in London. This is one of the rooms that he designed. There's our leather jacketed and waif. But he designed this room. So you're supposed to, I don't know, pretend that you don't have a window, that you don't have a French balcony. He designed a couple of other things too that are, this is the dining room, so that you don't have any light to see what you're eating. This is the kitchen, so you don't have any light to see what you're cooking. But maybe he had no control over that. Oh, and this is the bathroom. And once again, I want to point out, any of you who are older than 45 years old, you young people won't understand this. But if you're older than 45, maybe older than 50, certainly older than 60, you look at this and you think one word, slip. 2 words, slip and fall. That's not going to work for me and Deb. How are we supposed to get in or out of that thing without slipping and falling? We can't get in or out of that thing without slipping and falling. So you just have to redo the whole thing. You just have to tear all that out and redo the whole thing. But I think we're on to house profiles. Yes, we are, and we'll start with another lost opportunity. Good Lord. This is what the magazine refers to as a jewel box apartment in Athens. Jewel box meaning that the whole thing is probably as big as this living room and that kitchen at most. The whole of the place is probably that big. So a pied-à-terre, but an extremely small pied-à-terre. In Paris, in Athens, I can picture for you exactly the kind of building that this is like. I can picture what's outside the main patio area of this little apartment. I can picture what the rest of the building looks like. I can picture what the street looks like. And I can picture what this apartment looks like, but not the way this guy has it. That's his living room. And I can almost guarantee that this picture is being taken from the front door. This is probably a very small space. Living room, kitchen here, bedroom there, and that's it. And the view. And that is the view from the apartment. That is the Acropolis. That's his view from his apartment. But instead of making it a living space that is designed to be enjoyed, he's made it this airless kind of... He's obviously gone for all the bright white colors, and maybe that's a good idea because Athens gets unbelievably hot in summertime. 130 degrees Fahrenheit is easy. It gets unbelievably hot, almost unlivably. Of all the major urban centers in the West, Athens will be one of the first to be declared by UNESCO or whatever as unlivable in the summer, where if you are the city officials, you must bust the people out of the city for the summer. I kind of see what this guy's going for, but I wouldn't do it. Not only that, but another perfect reading nook, an actual little library. Wasted here, just wasted. Instead, you're going to eat in this little cul-de-sac. No, get rid of the dumb artwork on the walls, line them with bookcases, and make that a little library with chairs in it. But no, although if you think that my outrage has peaked when it comes to books, you are mistaken. You are very much mistaken. Because there is something coming. That is, see, here we have a kitchen. This is an ad, not a showcase, but this is a kitchen. Deb and I cannot use that chair. So that chair is useless. So you might as well burn it. It's useless. We can't use it. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. The person here is Emma Roberts, and the piece is actually called Booksmart. Talk about adding insult to injury. Indulging her passion for all things literary, Emma Roberts enlists Pierce and Ward to help fashion a cozy yet sophisticated LA base for her and her young child. Judging from that description and knowing what you know about Architectural Donoghue segments, what do you think is the one thing that's going to be almost completely missing from this place? Books. Yeah. This is the main living room. You're not allowed to touch these, or Alejandro will shoot you. You're not allowed to touch the ones on the coffee table, or Alejandro will shoot you. And there are no bookcases. And this literary hub continues. This is the whole rest of the living room. These are built-in bookshelves. Are there books on them? I think I count 4. And there are no other bookshelves. And it's butt ugly. We have the kitchen, which I'm not going to suggest that you all have books in the kitchen, but I bet you do. I do. We have the kids' room. I'm assuming that the kid is a little older because there is no creepy, gigantic giraffe. But again, no books. One little shelf here where no one ever looks at them. And none anywhere else. So here's the living room. This is definitely a literary person's living room. Definitely. I'm sure it looks just like yours. Here's the bedroom, the master bedroom. Are there any books in this room? Any at all in this room? No. I don't think there are. No. Then we move back to Costa Rica. to what looks like a lovely airy house. Of course, this is more along the lines of Architectural Digest in that there's no books, and the people who live here have never even heard what a book is. They have no idea what they are. You would say to them, "Do you have any books?" and explain it to them, and they say, "So it's like a compressed computer file of some kind," because they've never even heard of books. But they do have a pool, not for bathing outside, it's just an accent piece. But the thing is, the point that I always make about situations like this is how incredibly unsustainable it is. That pool takes 1,000 pounds of water. Those trees take 1,000 pounds of water, and there's no water anywhere around here. Anywhere around here. This area has been in a massive drought for 20 years and is never going to have sustainable water again. So it all becomes just this huge effort to get water in to keep this thing from burning alive. They did have an accent piece that I like. This thing here. But that's not enough to save their eyesore of an apartment. We have the master bedroom. I imagine there's a sliding door on this side where the photographer is. Then you've got the bed, and then you've got this space where Charles Manson is crouching. You can't see him, but he's there, believe me. Then we move to Ibiza. To wide open expanse in Ibiza. So you can see the water, and occasionally the water will be, the view will be blocked by Charles Manson, who can walk right up here to this gigantic open barn of a wall. And you've also got these things and this thing. Look at that thing. Again, I want to draw your attention not to the furniture, but to me and Deb. Big, hot, sweaty, gripey, fun to talk to about books or dogs or whatever. We are the guests that you want. We would destroy that chair. In fact, if you had Deb and I over as guests to this place in Ibiza, and we came in the front door just saying hello and putting our bags down and yelling at each other, just the sound of our voices would cause this chair to shatter into a million pieces. It is not meant for humans. It's not meant for oversized humans at all. Here we have more rattan furniture, utterly useless, in a dull beige room. Why outfit a room so that everything in it looks like a 5-day-old bruise? Why do that? But the owner does have an adorable little dog. He's so sweet. And it doesn't get any better. You have the bathroom, the main bathroom. Very nice, big marble tub. You like to be able to just sink into your tub. But unfortunately, when you rise back up out of the water, you see your little rubber ducky floating right here, and you see Charles Manson standing right there. So it kind of takes the fun out of it. The same thing with the master bedroom, which is nice and light and airy. Of course, no books of any kind. And there's a duvet on the bed, and on the duvet are a whole bunch of dog piles, cow patties. Why would you have a whole bunch of artistically placed cow patties on your duvet? Why would you do that? Are they the latest thing at the Biennale? I don't know. You could always go outside for a spot of lunch. But Charles Manson, he's right there. Yeah. So we don't want to stay too long in Ibiza because he knows where we are now. So we'll move to Lagos, which is even hotter than. I can just imagine how hot this apartment is, and knowing Lagos, it probably doesn't have much in the way of central air. But there is one detail. Most of it's just abysmal and longitudinal, oddly longitudinal. There's one detail that I really like. This outside porch. I really like that. I don't know how usable it would be. You'd really want screens or netting of some kind. I don't know how much you'd want that to be open to the outside world. But I really like the latticework light that you must get there for half the day. That must be really nice. And I think we have one more house profile to do. Yes. Someone bought a property an hour outside of Paris. Lovely old property, centuries old, and with the tower outbuildings and all, and decided to redo it. That was your mistake right there. Here's the living room. Just grotesque. Just grotesque. That room cries out for books. And to get rid of this thing. What on earth is this thing? Just, no. Just and the door where Charles Manson enters. You'd want to fix all of this. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is. You'd pretty much have to rip all this out. But you could keep the fireplace. and just redo this. Imagine floor-to-ceiling bookcases in that room. Of course, it's France. You'd redo it all in brown. None of this Mediterranean white stucco. You wouldn't want any of that. You also have a missed opportunity for another reading nook, but considering the company, you probably don't want that. You've got this weird space right here. This is all just mismanaged. All this is. It doesn't need to look like this. You get a good architectural firm in here, and they could easily make a nook right under here. It's a lot of space. It's more space than it looks because they've got dumb junk piled here. But this is a mistake. Seeing space under the stairs that you can't even use it for. You can't even use it for storage because people would be able to see what you're storing there. You can't use it for anything. It's just a mistake. So these stairs would have to come out. No need to give too much warning. Just pull them out anyway and let things happen as they will. You've got to pull out all of this stuff and put in a real staircase. Preferably something nice and steep with a space underneath. For reading, you could even put a door on that space, which would be nice. And this house is in the French countryside. They've got the cat, they've got a horse, and they've got sheep. But who's missing? Yeah, dogs are missing. But anyway, that's the latest issue of Architectural Donoghue. I will make sure to put that in the show notes and in the title of the video. But now we've got books. Now that we're at the 20-minute mark, we've got books. So let's see what we have here. See if there's anything that really sparks the interest on a genuinely warm day. This is a genuinely warm day. Not window fans, not little electric fans, not ceiling fans, not anything like that, but still. Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. This is by J.M. Miro, and this is the follow-up to Ordinary Monsters. This is Bringer of Dust. Big, thick thing here. This comes out in September. No pub sheet on it, but let's see here. When a body is discovered in the shadows of Cardinal, a body wreathed in corrupted dust of the Druger, Charlie and the Talents realize there is even more at stake than they'd feared. For a new Druger has risen, ferocious, horned, seemingly able to move in their world at will, and it is not alone. A malevolent figure, known only as the Abbess, desires the dust for her own ends, and deep in the world of the dead, a terrible evil stirs, an evil that the corrupted dust just might hold the secret to reviving or destroying forever. So obviously, you are going to need to read Ordinary Monsters first, or reread it. I'm hoping that the publicist will send me a copy of Ordinary Monsters, because I'm definitely going to need to reread it before I dig into this. Fortunately, I have plenty of time. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. All right, this comes out in mid-October. Yes, this comes out in mid-October. This is by Robert Suttender, and this is The Conscience of the Party, Hu Yaobang and Chinese Communist Reformer. Right. I wonder if this has an index yet. Probably not. No, it doesn't have the index in yet because this is an advanced copy. This comes out in October. But I bet this is going to be full of names that I've been reading lately. I've been reading lots of 20th century Chinese history lately. But again, no pub sheet, so we'll just read this here. When Hu Yaobang died in April of 1989, throngs of mourners converged on the Martyrs Monument in Tiananmen Square to pay their respects. Following his 1987 ouster by party elders, Chinese propaganda officials had sought to tarnish his reputation and dim his memory, yet his death galvanized the nascent pro-democracy student movement, setting off the dramatic demonstrations that culminated in the Tiananmen massacre. This book is the comprehensive, authoritative biography of the Chinese Communist Party's most avid reformer and its general secretary for a key stretch of the 1980s. A supremely intelligent leader with an exceptional populist touch, who was tapped early by Mao Zedong as a capable party hand, but whose principal ideas made him powerful enemies, and during the Cultural Revolution he was purged, brutally beaten, and consigned to forced labor. After Mao's death, he rose again as an ally of Deng Xiaoping, eventually securing the party's top position. But in that role, he pioneered many of the economic reforms subsequently attributed to Deng. But Hu also pursued political reforms with equal vigor, pushing for more freedom of expression, the end of lifetime tenure for CCP leaders, and the dismantling of Mao's personality cult. Alarmed by his growing popularity and increasing radical agenda, Deng had him purged in 1987. And this book is by a historian and former intelligence analyst. Fantastic. Hugh Settinger has more than 45 years of experience studying Chinese politics. Fantastic. Okay. All right. Well, this doesn't come out for a long time. It's going to be tempting to get to it right away. It's going to be tempting because I'm deep in that subject now. But I might wait for both of them. I might wait. Well, the first one, Bringer of Dust, I'm going to want to wait on that anyway until I reread Ordinary Monsters. Definitely. So let's see what this next one is. Finished copy, so this is probably May. Yeah, May. This is mid-May. This is a tiny little thing. This is by Veronica Roth, and it is called When Among Crows. What an interesting cover. Tiny little thing. Okay, so this comes out in a week. An enchanted speculative adventure that brings Polish folklore to contemporary Chicago. Okay. This book introduces readers to a Chicago unlike any other, a city where the fabric of reality is stitched with magic, monsters, and dark intrigue. Sounds like Chicago, I know. In this city, monsters feast on human emotions, knights wield soul-forged weapons, and witches deal in treacherous bargains. At the heart of this enthralling narrative are Demetrier and Allah, two characters bound by fate, magic, and a desperate quest for survival. Okay, well, this comes out, in a week? Yeah, this comes out in a week. So far, of all the books that we've seen so far in this mail haul, this one comes the closest to commandeering a spot on the night's reading. We'll see. That could change. We've got a few more packages to do here. That could easily change. Let's see what this next one is. Try to keep things clean here. What is this? All right, this comes out in August. Again, no sheet. This is by Sune Engel Rasmussen, and it is called 20 Years, Hope, War, and the Betrayal of an Afghan Generation. Sounds awful familiar. Yes, it does. It sounds awful familiar, yes. Because the publicist that contacted me about this thing had different things. She had a different tone in her email. And I wait for that. I admit it. That doesn't make me gullible. I wait for that. Because all publicists are readers. They might not be the kind of weird Kryptonian Olympic level reader that I am, but they're all readers. They're all like you or me. They love reading. That's why they get into the job. But they get a job and they get a slate of books that they have to represent and push for and get out into the world and whatnot. And it's not only not possible, it's not desirable for them to pretend that they love all those books. So when a publicist does love a book, when you get an email that is not the standard thing, but rather, oh my God, you've got to read this, I really like to pay attention to that, even if it doesn't end up working. Even if the tastes don't end up being the same. This is one of those. This comes out in early August. An intimate history of the Afghan War and of the young Afghans whose dreams it enabled and dashed. No country was more deeply affected by 9/11 than Afghanistan. An entire generation grew up amid the upheaval that began that day. Young Afghans knew the promise of freedom, democracy, and safety, fought with each other over its meaning, and then witnessed its collapse. In this book, the author draws on more than a decade of reporting from the country to tell Afghanistan's story from a new angle. Through the eyes of newly empowered women, skilled entrepreneurs, driven insurgents, and abandoned Western allies, we see the United States and its partners bringing new freedoms and wealth only to preside over the corruption, warlordism, and social division that led to the Taliban's return to power. Good Lord. Okay, all right, fantastic. So this author has reported on Afghanistan extensively for The Guardian and The Wall Street Journal. Okay, well, this comes out in August, so I can't get to it. But 20 years, of course, referring to the length of time that this world was, that the upheaval lasted. But that sounds really intriguing. Glad to have it. Probably I won't get to it until I get the finished copy. But you never know. You never know. All right, what's this next one? Oh, we have a pub sheet this time. Good. What have we got here? Need your mother's bouillabaisse recipe. What have we got here? All right, this comes out in September. Oh, right. Yes, I asked for this. Because this is by the author of Other Minds, a book that I really liked and that grew on me the more I thought about it. The author is Peter Godfrey Smith, and this is his new book, Living on Earth, Forests, Corals, Consciousness, and the Making of the World. This author is known to his readers as the intrepid scuba diving philosopher behind the acclaimed Other Minds and the book Metazoa, which I didn't think was as successful, but boy, was it interesting. Which have been translated to more than 20 languages and sold more than 1 million copies worldwide. These books turned to the minds of octopuses and then animals more broadly to explore the riddle of how consciousness came to exist. When we think about the history of life on Earth, we're often thinking about that question, about the evolutionary process that brought us and our fellow creatures into being. But what would happen if we flipped the script? If we approached organisms not just as evolutionary products, but as active causes in the transformation of our planet? What does the history of life on Earth look like when we put living beings in the driver's seat? This is the story, audacious, teeming with observations and insight, and of course action-packed, that Living on Earth seeks to tell. First, the author has to take us back to the beginning, which is much earlier than you might expect. While we humans are relatively late arrivals, life on Earth has existed for more than our planet's history, and far more than we can tell, for over a quarter of an age of the universe. Starting with cyanobacteria, tiny aquatic organisms that, around 3 billion years ago, began to release oxygen that would make Earth into a habitable place for animal life. The author shows us how the actions of living creatures have profoundly shaped their environments across time, first in the sea and then later on land. This means returning to the underwater world of the octopus dens and coral reefs, but also venturing into the forest, where we encounter massive mountain gorillas in Rwanda, marvel at bowerbirds in Australia, and watch as a collection of parrots, honey-eaters, and kookaburras, and magpies soar and skirmish in the author's own backyard. In the midst of it all, Living on Earth traces the path that humans have taken, the rise of culture, the role of language and writing, and the unprecedented changes that our species has wrought on the natural world. I would think, that would be a big part of this. Not all the generations of bowerbirds or narwhals or elephants has ever plopped a nuclear reactor down on an open plain, a floodplain, an earthquake-prone floodplain to begin with. Okay, great. Our unique powers come with responsibilities, and this book ends by examining the choices we face as they relate to habitat preservation and climate change, factory farming, and the use of animals in experiments. The author is a signer of the April 2024 New York Declaration on Consciousness, which posits that many organisms, including insects, have sentient awareness. Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's a room, okay? It's a room with a light switch on the wall. But it's not an on-off light switch, it's one of those dimmer switches. When that switch is all the way off and the room is dark, it's only dark to you. 70, 80% of the animals on Earth can see just fine in that room. And you dim the light up a bit. Suddenly a lot more animals can see. To them it is a little bit brighter. To them you have finally given them enough light to move around and act in. Then you do it a little bit brighter, and suddenly it's just barely good enough for you, but it's plenty bright enough for a whole bunch of other people. You have included more people. Then you turn it up to full normal brightness, and you can see. You can't find your glasses because they're on your head, but you can see everything else. And then you turn it up even brighter, and there are plenty of animals on Earth that will like that. And plenty that won't be able to see, even when the light is just your level. That's sentience. It's not a light switch on and off. It's that dimmer switch. That's sentience, which means everybody has it. Throughout the book, the author approaches foundational ethical questions with fresh eyes, looking at the challenges of our time through the sweeping history of life on Earth, from animate matter's first appearance all the way to its future extinction. Well, slow down, Seymour. This is 330 pages. Okay, but anyway, this doesn't come out for a while. This sounds really good. I always like this author, even when this comes out in early September. I always like this author, even when a book doesn't blow me away. Other Minds blew me away. Eventually, it blew me away. Metazoa did not, but it doesn't matter. He's terrific to read. Great. But not immediate. Great, but not immediate. And then we'll do this last one. Will this last one be something that might go on the pile for tonight? Maybe. Let's see. Not that I have any trouble filling that pile. Not at all. Oh, okay. Okay. This comes out in late June, so this probably doesn't make the list. Okay. This is called My Glorious Defeats. Hacktivist, Narcissist, Anonymous. A memoir by Barrett Brown. Barrett Brown went to prison for 4 years for leaking intelligence documents. He was released to Trump's America. This is his story. After a series of escapades both online and off that brought him in and out of 4chan forums, the halls of power, heroin addiction, and federal prison, Barrett Brown is a free man. He was arrested for his part in an attempt to catalog, interpret, and disseminate top-secret documents exposed in a security lapse by the intelligence contractor Stratfor in 2011. An influential journalist who is also active in the hacktivist collective Anonymous, Brown recounts exploits from a life shaped by often self-destructive drive to speak truth to power. With inimitable wit and style, palpable anger and conviction, he exposes the incompetence and injustices that plague media and politics, reflects on the successes and failures of transparency movement, and shows the way forward in harnessing digital communications tools for collective action. Everybody who is in prison right now for disseminating classified documents should be immediately freed. Not because they're not traitors, but because we have one law system or we have no law systems. And the greatest traitor who has ever done that, a president who stole documents about Israel's nuclear profile to sell them to the Saudis for $2 billion. A president who still has tranches of extremely sensitive, eyes-only, secured room-only documents that he hasn't told anybody about, that haven't been found, and that he is still fencing to Russia. A president who is on trial for this, and the only reason he isn't in jail for it by now already is because he has one of his employees as the judge. In a case that is so unbelievably rigged and so completely black-letter law open and shut, that if he didn't somehow get his employee on that case, we wouldn't be talking about Stormy Daniels in Manhattan. He would be in prison already. So as long as that is true, and as long as nobody seems to care, as long as Special Counsel Jack Smith has not even asked for this judge to be recused, the appeals bench would take her off the case in 2 seconds. But they need to be asked. They won't do it on their own. He hasn't even bothered to ask. He's okay with this trial, scheduled tentatively for 2026, which is utterly mystifying to me. That is utterly baffling to me. In 2026, he will be dead, and so will his family, and so will I. So what he's thinking, to wait so long with a dead bang conviction. But as long as that is true, as long as there's an open and shut case that a president of the United States stole the most, this guy never came anywhere near the documents that Trump stole and kept in his bathroom. As long as that's true, set everybody else free. Otherwise, you are a nation just sautéing in hypocrisy. But that comes out in July. I admit it's interesting. All of these things are interesting, but there's only one of them. It's just a little fantasy novel. It's just going to take me 15 minutes to read. It's nothing. It's only that one. All the others are too far down the line. It's great. It beefs up my shelves, but so we have My Glorious Defeats. Barrett Brown gets out of prison and tells his story. We have Living on Earth, pretty intriguing stuff. If I were going to break my rule about proximate reading, I'd do it for this. We have 20 years. What was life like for those Afghans in the immediate wake of war? When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. I think probably a lot of you are more fans of Veronica Roth than I am. I'd be willing to bet that. The Conscience of the Party. Fantastic. Also hugely tempted with this one. And finally, Bringer of Dust, which I am just going to put on complete hold because I want to reread Ordinary Monsters. And I don't have a copy. I had one. We saw it on this channel, but I don't have one anymore. So there you go. That is some mail to start us off. I did not make any videos yesterday because I had a guest over. And when I have a friend over and I'm just enjoying myself, when the friend leaves, I get all incredibly mopey and depressed. It's utterly ridiculous. It's juvenile. But I cannot stop myself from doing it. I can't talk myself out of it. I've tried to talk myself out of it. I can't do it. And that means that I was sad for a huge chunk of the day. And I try not to make videos when I'm sad. So I just disappeared from radar. But I'm back now. So I will... my night's reading list was barely touched by these things. So that's great. In a way, that's great. So I'll wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.